Hey, this is Justin Sinceri. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist who is obsessed with the Polyvagal Theory. This is a clip from a discussion slash interview that I did with a small nursing support group. They asked me to come in and just talk about Polyvagal Theory, got to field some questions, and this is a clip from that. If you'd like access to the entire talk, consider becoming a patron. If you become a patron, it's only $5 a month, and with that $5 a month, you get access to an entire podcast that is exclusive just for patrons, besides my Stuck Not Broken regular weekly podcast. That's about it, though. Enjoy this clip. Yeah, so there's a concept called story follows state. And the idea here is that the thoughts we have in our mind follow or run parallel to, but we'll say follow whatever autonomic state that we're in. If I'm going to work in a safe and social state, my thoughts are going to be, I'm going to do great today. I love my job. I can't wait to check in with whoever about their weekend. That's going to be that safety, the thoughts that might come with the safety state. If I exist in like a flight fight state, my thoughts are going to be more, especially with fight, more blaming, more anticipating something going bad, more planning, but like in a stressed out way, not in like a proactive way, more like just stressed out, that kind of pressured thinking and whatnot. We're going to think that people are out to get us. This person doesn't like me. Like I work with students all the time who are in a flight fight state and they fail a class and they say, well, the teacher doesn't like me. It's like, no, you didn't do the work. You didn't show up to school. It's not because the teacher doesn't like you. But in that state, these are the thoughts that come in their mind is like, someone's out to get me. And then in the shutdown state, that's that collapsed immobilization. In that state, the thoughts are going to be very pessimistic. Like there's no point. I'm going to work, but there's no point. Or I don't think I'll be able to help whoever it is today. Or I'm dreading. So I think dread could be a feeling there. I'm dreading interacting with whoever it is. So it's just that empty, hollow, like a loss of energy, so that your thoughts will follow and match that. All right, those are the three basic primary states of the polyvagal theory. But these can mix, and these can create secondary states, just like we have like primary colors, red, yellow, blue. You can mix those and create secondary colors but they are green, purple, and orange. So when we mix the top of the ladder, safety state, plus the middle of the ladder, flight, fight state, that equals play. We call that play. So we're safe, we're socially engaged, but we're mobilized. Okay, so when we're playing, we are making eye contact. We are following the rules together. We're sharing a moment. We're taking turns. So there's mobilization, but within this sort of social engagement, but also structure. If you look at kids that play, or even if you have dogs, I have 3 dogs in my home here. Dogs, when they play, they'll look at each other. When they are no longer playing, they'll turn their head and their voice will change. It'll become like a deeper growl. That signifies I'm no longer socially engaged. I'm taking away my safe eye contact. I'm no longer socially engaged. So that's not play. Traumatized kids who try to play have a really hard time. These are the kids that we say, quote unquote, don't play well with others, because they'll start playing, but their capacity to socially engage is very compromised, so they can't really maintain that. And then it starts to turn into just flight fight energy. You have to have the safety stuff, the safety pathways active at the same time as the flight fight energy. So that's called play. That's the first mixed state. Second mixed state is when we have the safety pathways active at the top of the ladder along with the shutdown pathways at the bottom of the ladder. So the ventral vagal plus the dorsal vagal. When those are combined, that creates something called stillness. This is where we can immobilize, but be okay with it. So we immobilize to do things like meditate. Yoga has some immobilization in there. Using the restroom, being intimate with somebody, relaxing, just sitting still, and just kind of being in the present moment. You can't be still and be okay with it unless you have your safety pathways active. So that's safety plus shutdown, that equals something called stillness. And the last mixed state is something called freeze. And this is where we have the mobilization, flight, fight energy active along with the shutdown, immobilization. So we're mobilized but also immobile at the same time. And what that looks like is that we're revved up. Our heartbeat is way up. Our blood is pumping. Our muscles are tense, but we can't move. So we're immobilizing at the same time. It looks like a panic attack. I'm terrified of heights. It's getting better, but I have panic attacks. If I get up high enough, especially if I'm in a car and I can't see the ground or I can't see over the cliff, I'll have a panic attack where I really tense up, my breathing gets really shallow, but I can't move. I'm really kind of just stuck there in that moment. So a panic attack is a really good example of what freeze can look like day to day. Okay, freeze also comes from surviving potentially traumatic events. If you're really revved up but immobilized, that could lead to someone being traumatized, being stuck in that state of freeze, that mixed state of freeze. So play, stillness, and freeze. That's awesome. There's this thing called neuroception, which you're kind of touching upon. Neuroception it's basically the process of I guess it applies to any species, but I'll just say mammals, which mammals is not a species, humans is a species, but whatever. Mammals, we get these cues from the outside, right? Internally also, but let's just start with the outside. We get these cues of safety or danger. Or I'll just say our senses pick up on our eyes see things, our nose smell things, we touch things, we feel. So all these different sensory stimuli come in, and it goes to the brainstem. And the brainstem really is where things are, quote unquote, decided as far as various levels of safety or danger. It's not a conscious thing. No one is like processing how safe or dangerous something is, really. It's all like brainstem stuff that's like built within our DNA. We are all built to respond to certain things universally pretty much the same way. So if my eyes went wide and I started talking in a monotone voice, like you might feel like, whoa, right? If I sold that, I'm not a great actor, but if I sold that, your nervous system might want to back up a little bit and say, like, what just happened there? Like Justin's safety just got pulled away. And so you might feel that. Sometimes people feel right here of like, whoa, something just happened. So there's certain things, or like encroaching upon space, eyes wide, monotone voice, flat facial affect where we're not utilizing our facial muscles. These things tell someone else's nervous system whether or not I'm safe. So they don't have to think about it. It's just ingrained into our DNA to respond in certain ways. More or less, I mean, it looks different person to person, but more or less that we respond in very similar, pretty much predictable ways. And that's called neuroception, where these things come in, brainstem filters it, decides safe, dangerous, or life threat. And then those pathways are fired as far as safety, mobilization, or immobilization. So what we can do consciously is, just like Nadia said, like we can identify what brings us to safety and what doesn't bring us to safety. So certain people I'm around, not so much. Certain people I am around, yeah, I feel different. I feel lighter. I'm able to breathe easier. I can smile. I'm noticing that I want to get closer and hug the person. These things would indicate that this is good for my nervous system in general, okay? So we have to be curious, like what textures or what smells, what colors, what brings us those feelings of safety. So you have to kind of relate what movements. Like I know for me, dancing's not it. But for the next person, they might know that dancing is it, or martial arts, or Tai Chi, or whatever kind of movement feels right for them. That they just know, like, oh, something felt different. So I'm gonna kind of be curious about that and follow that. And the things that don't feel right, I don't know if we can cut all those out of our life really, but if we have more of an idea of what doesn't feel safe, there might be something we can control there. Like my office here, I've gone out of my way to really build this to feel like when I walk in, I want to feel safe. I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel like I can be still and just kind of sit down and do some work or do some journaling in the corner over there. So I've kind of designed my office to be like that. There's sound panels on the wall, which are mostly for the podcast, but I've noticed that when I walk into this room, because the rest of the house doesn't have that, when I walk into the room, it's noticeably quieter, and I like it. Like my system just like I like the dampened noise. It speaks to my system. So we can notice what doesn't feel safe, and maybe we can make some alterations around it. But yeah, that's perfect though. Like when we depending on who we are around, I have like multiple thoughts I'm trying to get out at the same time. Depending on who we are around, we will feel ruptures in the co-regulation. So we'll feel ruptures in the feedback loop of them and me. Like we're talking or socially engaging, And if they look off to their phone, I'll experience that as like a rupture. There's a disconnection here. Now, someone might take that even further and say, was I boring? Like there's something about me that was, you know what I mean? But if we just look at it as like, oh no, I just had a feeling. I had a feeling of rupture, and I could see why. I could see where that came from, which is they looked away when I was right in the middle of a sentence, right? That paradigm we can apply to the situation and say, oh, I get it. Now I have a new narrative. It's not that I'm boring. It's that they got distracted, and that's not a personal thing. It's just, and then my system felt that slight little rupture, that disconnection. My system felt that. And maybe even I caught my thought of like, am I boring? Maybe I caught the thought and I can say, no, slow down, Justin, hold on. And then bring it back and say, no, I just have this feeling and that's okay. And they looked away from their phone and that's okay too. Maybe a little bit rude, but that's okay too. And it's not that big of a deal because things can go way the other way. Now, if we're around parents, if we're raised in environments where this is the day in and day out, not just looking at the phones, but severe depression, their own flight fight stuff going on. There's that's going to definitely, when we're around that, we shift into a defensive state. And then we're going to kind of exist there, and maybe we need to get our needs met. But then, those stories are going to build up around that. You know what I mean? About our worth, or around what it means to be who we are and how lovable we are, or whatever it is, So those stories are going to build up because there's no like paradigm to view it through. There's no, like, once, like you've said, Nadia, once you learn the Polyvagal Theory in this instance, or maybe if you learn more about attachment or about whatever it is, once you have that viewpoint, that paradigm, and you apply it to yourself, then it's like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Here's my reaction. That makes sense. Here's my feelings. Yeah, and it's okay to feel that way. There's no judgment there. There's no shame. Dog in the background, sorry. Also a child in the background. He just got home from swimming practice. God. So they're screaming and barking. Everyone's safe.